All right, Spiked Up, episode 12. Man, Darren, quarantine's been a long time because we're in episode 12. We started this beginning, and I think we even waited a week or two after. So we're still doing Zoom calls, but man, we're getting back to it. And so we thought we'd bring in Howard Webb, the general manager of the Professional Referee Organization. A lot of history here. We're going to touch on that, do a deep dive. You've seen a lot, you've done a lot, and we can't wait to. For me, I'm really excited to learn more on this podcast. This is going to be educational for me. I can't wait to kind of hear some of the questions Darren asked you. I'll probably ask you the fun quarantine ones and other things around that. But we cannot thank you enough for your time and thank you for joining us.
No, you're welcome, guys. Thanks for having me. We appreciate it.
Yeah, hi Howard. Like Matt says, we're on episode 12, so we're going on a bit. This is the first time we've had a Rotherham fan on.
You're really scraping the barrel. You've got a Rotherham United fan, and most fans would have heard of this little club that's just been promoted to the Championship, but it's a team I support in England, so I'm proud of it. But yeah, so yeah, nice to be spending time with you guys. It's better than sitting alone in my apartment here in Jersey City.
I was going to ask, how is quarantine life going for you? I mean, that's kind of the first question we ask all our guests. Everyone's different. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Some people are adapting to it. Lots of Zoom calls and Teams calls on this. But yes. How has it been for you? And how are you getting through it?
So I mean, personally, I mean, one of the silver linings that I've heard people talk about a lot is that it's given people a chance to have more time with their families than they normally would. Well, I can't sort of like make the most of that myself because my kids are in university over in the UK, and so is my partner. She's in Germany, and so I didn't want to leave and go over there for fear of not being able to get back in. And also I wanted to be here to sort of like manage our response to this, particularly in those early weeks as well. And not knowing that I'd be able to get back in meant I wanted to stay here. So it's been fairly tough, 14 or so weeks on my own in this apartment. I've been doing a lot of eating. I realised I had to curb that. So I've started training in the last few weeks. I've lost quite a bit of weight, so I'm pleased with myself on that. Professionally, it's been okay. I mean, we're quite well equipped, I think, to deal with remote contact because our officials are all over the country, mainly in the US, but some in Canada. Our staff are spread out all over the country as well. So we have a lot of, remote contact anyway. The thing we've missed is coming together every 2 weeks. We meet in Dallas throughout the spring and the fall, and then in the summer we meet normally in Minneapolis when it gets a bit too warm down in Dallas, and we review clips and we train together. So we've missed that because it's not been possible to do that. We've replaced it with online contact like everybody else has. But I'm fit and well, I'm healthy, so I've got a lot to be grateful for.
Great. Any new hobbies? Any good Netflix shows or any TV shows or anything that it sounds like you've been cooking? Any new recipes that you've come across?
So I have started cooking quite a lot actually. I've got a nice Jamie Oliver cookbook that I'm working my way through. But no, I think the two things I've done the most, I've tried to make sure I do this every single day, and that is when I realised I was putting a bit of weight on, because the bigger danger to me in this period wasn't the virus, it was the fridge. I've got a sign on the door saying, "You're not hungry, you're just bored. So step away." So I started training. So I've been doing. I joined us like a 12-week plan, and I've definitely lost some body fat. So I'm really pleased with that. And I'm also trying to learn German, and I've been trying to do that for months and months and months. So my other half she actually referees on the Bundesliga, so she refereed Union Berlin last night against Paderborn, which is pretty cool for me to see. But she's a better referee than I ever was.
And Howard, quickly on that, how does that work? Do you sort of phone up and give your criticism? How does it work? Do you mark it down, say, "Oh, I thought you missed one there"?
Yeah, I do. And because I'm 4,000 miles away, I can be really honest. I'm not afraid that she's going to, give me some reaction. But she's done great. I mean, she's been on there since 2017. She's the first female to make one of the top European leagues, and it's pretty challenging to get there. There's so many glass ceilings you have to break through to get a chance. And eventually in 2017, they gave her that chance. She refereed the first game in Berlin, Hertha Berlin against Werder Bremen. I was over there, I'd refereed in that stadium myself some years earlier. And to see her go out there in front of 50,000 and absolutely, boss the game was awesome, because she's good at what she does. We try to take that view here, Darren. We don't care, male, female. If you're good enough, you get a chance. But yeah, so I've been trying to learn German simply because, her parents don't speak English particularly well, and, it just makes sense. But I'm nearly 49 now, so my head is sort of like turning to beton. That's German for concrete. It's not malleable like a 7-year-old. So it's hard, but I'm getting there slowly.
That's great. Like my German, I did 1 year at school, so I've got a few phrases. Ich bin Ausländer und spreche nicht gut Deutsch. That's about the limit I think I've still got. There you go.
Do speak Deutsch very good, Dan, yeah.
So look, I mean,
English.
Yeah, pleased to have you on, and those people who follow the game will know you as your refereeing career, and it'd be I know you've done some huge matches, and we'll sort of get onto those, but I'm always interested in what's your favorite game that you've refed. It could have been any game you've done. Is there one that you sort of look back on and think, wow, that was one of the fun games for me as a referee?
Yeah, I mean, there was lots and lots of games I look back on with pride, not just in terms of my performance, but in terms of, just being a part of amazing events, really. And I always felt I had the best seat in the house. I mean, I didn't ever want to be a ref when I was 7 or 8. I played football as a kid, like thousands of kids do, and I wanted at that age to be a World Cup winning captain. That was my ambition, not realising at the age of 7 how difficult that ambition would be to achieve being English. But that's what I'd hoped to be. And it was only when I got to about 15 I realised that I wasn't good enough and was never going to be good enough, no matter how hard I tried. And my dad encouraged me to become a ref. He'd taken up refereeing some years before when he'd finished playing. And he said, look, you might be quite good at it. And I said, no, I'm not interested, Dad. When I think about refs in my mind's eye, I think about bald old men, which is like what I've become some years later. But at the time I was a young kid, and I thought it might be nice to have some younger people involved. So I encouraged a mate from school to go down to the course, 6-week course. We passed it with an exam back in 1989, and that was the start of this journey. Amazing journey with some incredible stops. But if I couldn't be a player, then I felt I had the best seat in the house to be able to be on the field, sharing the field with these amazing athletes who were incredibly skillful at what they did, creating a spectacle that thousands of people enjoyed. And to be involved in some of the great games was wonderful. I mean, we're just seeing the Premier League start up again this week. But, I remember refereeing a Liverpool against Arsenal game, which finished 4-4 at Anfield. And I think I gave 8 free kicks. The game was just played around me, and I didn't pay to get in. It was wonderful. I think the game that stands out overall, though, happened just over 10 years ago, and that was the UEFA Champions League final, which I refereed in the Santiago Bernabeu Stadium in Madrid, a game between Bayern Munich and Inter Milan. And there was nothing particularly special about the game itself. Inter Milan won the game 2-0. Diego Milito scored both goals. Jose Mourinho was in charge at Milan at the time, or Inter, should I say. But it was just one of those huge occasions where I knew the eyes of the world were going to be on this game. And the days before VAR, you went out and did games. I don't want to say you were flying by the seat of your pants, but you knew that something could happen like that, and you wouldn't get an angle on it. Your team wouldn't be able to help, and then that could define your career. It could define at least that season. And the sense of satisfaction when that game went so smoothly was immense. I can remember about 70 minutes into the game, there was an injury, and the guys were having a little water drink break, if you like, while this player was being treated. And I was able to look around the Bernabeu Stadium at 80,000 faces looking at this game, and I'm in the middle wearing a referee's kit. Amazing. That journey that started out as a failed footballer. And I knew I'd got the game probably kind of like in my pocket. At certain times when you're fighting for control, and no matter how hard you try, you're struggling to make the right calls. And other times, the game is really smooth. You've seen the game big, you've seen the ball big. And that was one of those occasions. And I blew the full-time whistle and was quite emotional about the way that game had gone, and the fact that we'd been entrusted with it, and it had gone so smoothly. And it set us up in a good place, because a few days later we went down to South Africa for the World Cup, and I knew that everybody would have seen the Champions League final that had gone smoothly. Yeah. So I think that was the most satisfying and enjoyable experience of my career. And
that was a big summer for you, Howard, because I know 2010, I think you're still the only referee to do the Champions League final and the World Cup final in the same year. Now tell me about that final, because that was a little bit different.
that
You didn't
wasn't
feel
the
you
most
had that in your
enjoyable.
pocket after 70 minutes.
That was a long 2 hours. I mean, we'd gone down to South Africa in good shape. You know, I'd got a great team with me. I mean, my two assistants, guys that you'll be familiar with, a guy called Darren and Carlos from Norwich and Mike Malarkey from Exeter. We'd worked together, you know, loads of times in Premier League and Champions League football, and we'd been on this selection process for the World Cup for 2 years. You know, made the final cut of 29 refs that went down with their assistants. But, you know, we never expected to get to the final. You know, we knew that the progress of the England national team could prevent us getting to the later stages. So, you know, okay, maybe that wasn't as big of a risk. But we also knew there was a lot of experienced officials going down there, more experienced than we were. But we went in there in good shape and refereed a couple of games in the group stage. It went really well. And then we got a round of 16 game between Brazil and Chile. And again, that went really smoothly. So suddenly I'm thinking, you know, I've got a chance maybe of a quarter final in the World Cup or a semi-final. And neither of those two assignments came. And then after the semi-finals had been played, there was only about 9 referee teams left down there because people get released at different stages of the tournament. So again, if your own team progresses, then you go home because there's a conflict. You can't referee games, you know, that are impactful for your nation's progress. Or if errors are made, then that can curtail your tournament. So if you remember, Frank Lampard scored a goal against Germany when the ball hit the bar and went over the line behind Manuel Neuer, and it wasn't given. And the Uruguayan referee, Jorge Loyondo, really classy referee in his day, was sent home fairly quickly after that because the team, his assistants, had not seen it. There was no goal line technology. So that was a sort of thing that can happen without the assistance of technology. So, you know, the group had been reduced down quite significantly, down to about 9. And after the semi-finals had been played, we got pulled together into a conference room in a hotel down in Pretoria where we were staying. And FIFA came forward, they debriefed us on the semi-finals on the video screen, and then they read out the final 2 assignments. And one of them is match 63, the 3rd place game, which in that year was Uruguay against Germany. And the other game was the final, Spain against the Netherlands, match 64. And they announced match 63 first. And I remember sitting there thinking, you know, there's going to be 7 people in this room who aren't going to get a game. 2 are going to get games. So you want to have a game, but do you want match 63? Do you want the 3rd place game? It's still an honours game, but you know that if your name is shouted out for that one, you're not going to be on the final. So, you know, listening to that game being announced, I was kind of relieved when my name wasn't on it. And then the next thing they said is match 64, the Netherlands against Spain, referee Webb, England. And that changes your life. You know, within seconds, they put it out onto the wires. You know, it was all over Sky Sports News at home. You know, World Cup to refereed by us. People started to send me text messages and emails, and within the first hour, I got over 1,000 messages saying congratulations. And you know, it was pretty expensive to answer everyone when I was stuck down in South Africa. But the phone was paid for by the Premier League, so I thought, who cares? Texting away, you know.
Student can sort that out, yeah.
Exactly. And the game was tough. I mean, people said this will be a beautiful game. You know, two countries who know how to play the game beautifully. You know, the Netherlands, Holland created, you know, total football and the Johan Cruyff, and the Spanish who had this brand of tiki-taka football, you know, that had been so successful. But finals often aren't that beautiful, are they? You know, there's a lot at stake, and there's pressure, and you know, I thought it might not be so beautiful. I never thought it would be quite so difficult. You know, it was a really physical affair. You know, from the first few minutes, there were tackles flying in. I managed with some warnings early on, a couple of yellow cards. I thought that would settle the game down, but it didn't. You know, the challenges to my authority kept coming. You know, the physicality kept coming. And as much as you try to referee the game and not the occasion, people say that, don't they? But, you know, you can't help but know that in your mind that it's the World Cup final. So you want certainty on the decisions that you're making. And, you know, I didn't perform, you know, particularly well on that particular game, but there was an awful lot of opportunities, you know, that challenged me. And, you know, we got through eventually okay. You know, Spain won the game with a late winner from Iniesta.
That's right. Those who didn't watch it, I think, was it 14 yellow cards and a red card? I mean, it really was.
Yeah,
chippy.
14, 9 in normal time, 5 more in extra time. And, you know, if you looked at a match report and saw that, if I did that as the manager of Pro now and looked at a report on the game I'm not seeing, I think something's not gone quite right there with that number of yellow cards. But, you know, the game sort of like, required interventions. The one thing that I regret to this day is obviously not sending off Nigel de Jong in the first half when he committed a really bizarre high foot challenge that you wouldn't expect. And it was on Xabi Alonso, and I was looking through the back of Alonso and saw like a late contact. Never recognised that the foot was so high from my position. Just thought it was a late heavy contact. So people say, "Oh, did you bottle it, or did FIFA tell you not to send players off because it was the final?" Not at all. Nobody said anything like that. And at no point did I think, "Oh, that's a red card, but I better not give it in the final." I just didn't recognise it for what it was from my position, and showed a yellow card. But clearly on replay, you could see within moments it should have been a red, and he should have been sent off. And again, in the days of VAR, that would have been a very quick trip over to the monitor, and the red card would have been forthcoming, and quite rightly so.
All right,
let's talk about VAR. I mean, Howard, you came over, and part of your sort of role was rolling out VAR in Major League Soccer. We had it quite unusually in that we brought it in halfway through a season because we wanted to be the first league to bring it in. A couple of things. Firstly, it sounds like you answered that question, but from your perspective, as a referee, would you have loved to have had VAR in your arsenal of weapons when you were refereeing?
Yeah, I would, Darren. And I think if you ask any official going into a game now, any game, but particularly a big game, on the eve of the game, if you say to that ref, okay, tomorrow's game, tomorrow's FA Cup final, or tomorrow's MLS Cup final, or tomorrow's, Euro final, you can go into that game with or without VAR. What do you prefer? There's nobody's going to say, "Oh, I'll take my chances without it." You know what I mean? It's like, why would you not want a colleague who's got all the angles to assist? So I would have liked. I can think of occasions where I'd give a decision on the field, and would be thinking to myself, one of those tight calls where you get one view and it's maybe a foul at the edge of the penalty area. I remember one. I don't know why it stands out in my mind, but I remember refereeing the Chelsea game. Chelsea were attacking at Stamford Bridge, and whoever it was in possession of the ball got fouled really close to the edge of the penalty area, moving at pace into the penalty area. And I just genuinely didn't know whether, I knew it was a foul, hit the whistle, but I didn't know what my second action would be. Was it a penalty or was it a direct free kick outside? Quite a big difference, of course. But the pace of the breakaway was such that I was looking from some distance. Even my assistant looking across wasn't able to be totally convinced. And I gave it outside the penalty area because my experience tells me when players fall into the penalty area at pace, quite often, if you're not sure what the next decision is, penalty or free kick, normally when I've watched it back, it's happened outside, but the speed forces players to players in, exactly. And if you're too slow in your thinking, then you react to where the player finally falls. So I gave a free kick outside, and I can remember thinking to myself, it was a live TV game on a Sunday afternoon, and I remember thinking, thousands of people at home know the answer that I don't know, and I'm the one that needs to know it, because that's going to be so impactful on the game. And I can't remember if I was right or wrong, but I think it's a tool that really gives referees confidence, and if it's used properly, and when I say used properly, used in a way that enhances the game and doesn't interfere with the game, then it can be a massive benefit. And that's what we've tried to do in MLS. We've tried to make sure it sits in the background and only comes in when something really needs intervention. We don't go poking around. We don't go looking too hard. And I think one of the best things you can do is manage people's expectations about what it does do and what it doesn't do. Don't expect total agreement after the game with every decision, because this game is full of subjectivity. So, expect us to clarify and rectify clear errors that are totally wrong. The De Jong tackle, I mean, there's nobody in their right mind would look at that and say, "Oh, yellow card's okay," as much as I'd like them to. But equally, if you've got one that's 50-50, 70-30, don't expect agreement. If you're in that 30, don't expect to agree.
I think it's interesting, Howard, because we brought it in MLS, and I think, look, partly you've got America that's used to having video review in other sports. I think, fair play to you and your team. You did a great job speaking to the media and managing expectations so that I think, it went pretty seamlessly in terms of coming into MLS and was pretty well received. It's been really interesting for me to see the Premier League, because I think they did the opposite. Perhaps they were expecting perfection, and what you saw was, I don't know what your thoughts are from the outside looking in, but it just seemed like every game there was an issue in the country, and they really still haven't sort of embraced it.
It's definitely been a challenge, hasn't it, over there? And I think there's a few reasons why it's been easy here. You're right about the North American sporting sort of like culture is much more familiar with the use of replays, and you're right. I think what we did, and you know, I take my hat off to MLS as well for the way that they control this. But you know, being able to get out there to a wide audience and say to them, look, guys, you know, you're not going to agree with every outcome. You know, this is an additional tool that's going to make us better, but it won't make us perfect, because I'm not sure what perfect looks like. And then we also did the road show with all the clubs, and probably it happened in the Premier League as well. But there's more resistance over there. There's the football average football fan is, I think, pretty conservative and not particularly, you know, wanting the game to be messed around with too much. As much as they don't like to see incorrect decisions, they don't like changing the game. That's kind of my experience. And I think a few other things came into play as well. So, you know, we've seen a lot of negativity over there in relation to things like tight offside decisions and goals being disallowed for handball. Well, let's just look at those two. First of all, the handball situation. We've yet to really work in MLS with the new handball laws of the game that say if a ball accidentally hits an attacker's arm and goes into goal or leads to an immediate goal scoring chance, then a goal, that will be disallowed. Before that law change, we only worked with deliberate handball, so the attacker had to do something deliberate, and the lawmakers changed the law. The issue with that is that quite often, you know, a referee in lifetime can't see exactly what the ball's hit, so play's allowed to continue. It goes into the goal. There's a big celebration. The VAR has to check the goal because every goal is checked, and they can see that the ball hit the defender's arm accidentally in many cases, and they have no choice but to take the goal away because of the way that the law is written. So that creates negativity, and we've not faced that yet in MLS because we've only had two games with the new laws before the shutdown. So we're going to face some negativity around that as well, I think. You know, where goals are scored, celebrated, the VAR has to check it, and as soon as you see that contact with the arm, then, you know, the goal will be disallowed. What we're trying to minimise the impact of that by saying, look, we're only going to interfere or get involved there when it is immediate that the goal is scored. So not like two passes before. If it accidentally hits a player's arm, you know, goes to a player who crosses and the header goes in, we're going to leave that goal standing. That's an accidental handball. The law was changed to try to rule out those unfair situations.
Wasn't it, really?
Yeah, where a player puts it in with the hand, or, you know, even if it's accidental, the view was you can't score with your hand. So we're going to try and minimise the impact of that. The other thing is the offside. And it's a really difficult one to know what the correct answer is, because in MLS, we don't have enough consistency in our camera configurations to use the lines. We tested it at the back end of 2019 in 13 games behind the scenes, where, you know, we'd play the game, we'd do it in the normal way, but behind the scenes we'd be putting lines on another screen to see how effective it was. And there were certain situations where we just simply weren't able to put a line in the right place because we didn't have the camera in the position behind the goal in every stadium, that type of thing. So, you know, the camera coverage is going to be great down in Orlando. It's going to get better in market stadiums. But, you know, at the moment we're struggling, I think, to get that consistency. Whereas in the Premier League, they've got lots of cameras, so they can do that. But by doing that, then you identify situations like this, and all the benefit of the doubt that went to the attacking team year on year has now gone away. So I think you'll see the lawmakers change the offside law so that it reaccommodates that benefit of the doubt, because in my experience, from what I've seen, that is one of the areas that creates a lot of negativity against VAR.
Yeah, Howard, I was going to, you kind of answered my next question. I was going to, me being in, you know, doing the broadcast and you know, being our liaison with broadcast, how important is broadcast for your jobs when it comes to VAR? I mean, like you said, camera angles and, you know, making sure the TV truck is showing you what is needed. I also, to follow that up, we mentioned that, you know, North American sports have replay. Do you ever evaluate kind of what the NFL does or MLB does on their replays? Because, you know, I know this past year, NFL had the pass interference, you know, come in and do you ever look into that and evaluate what the other leagues are doing and you know, take that to make sure you guys are you know, doing best practices, or maybe the other leagues aren't doing the best practices?
Yeah, we do. I'll talk about that. So in terms of the broadcasters, massively important. I mean, you know, we rely on the angles that they provide to us. We're a little bit different than some sports. I know the NFL, and I've been to their replay center. They are only allowed to use in part of their replay process the angles that are put out on broadcast. So they can't use angles that aren't shown. We can use any angle that has been captured by the broadcast cameras are fed into our operation room, and we can choose the ones we want to use to do the job. And the main thing from our side is that those cameramen or women do their job and keep looking across the 18-yard line. They are tempted sometimes to zoom in on midfield, and suddenly you'll look for it offside and there's no camera looking across. Like, what is in on the halfway line? I mean, so again, there's an educational piece as well there, because sometimes from an entertainment point of view, it might seem the right thing to zoom in onto midfield, but from our point of view, we need that 18-yard line camera looking across to give us any hope of getting the offside situation right. And also, we were keen as well to continue educating, but giving insight into VAR with the broadcasters and the talent that tell the story. They're so important to us that they have an understanding of what is happening, that they are able to give an accurate portrayal of what's happened. So part of that is in-game trying to pass information that's accurate to them, so they're not left wondering what happened there. They want to get it right. They don't want to be floundering. So we're looking at ways that we can deliver direct communication. So down in Orlando, for example, I'm going to be sat in the VOR speaking directly to the TV production team, saying, okay, the play that's in review is the goal, there's an offside, interfering with the goalkeeper, etc., etc. And then the message can be passed to the talent, and that can be sent out on air. And then also every 2 weeks we have a meeting, a call to go through all the reviews with anybody from the media, broadcasting, and we just explain why something happened, what we did well, what we could have done better. And that's so important, having that open line of communication. We've also started putting things on our website, proreferees.com. Every week we put some examples of video review. You can hear what the referees are saying. You can see the different angles that we used. And that goes on there every week. And for any Atlanta fan, I'd say, have a look at it. I think it's quite interesting and quite insightful. And we don't always just defend the indefensible. If we get something wrong, we'll say we've got it wrong. In terms of collaboration with other sports, I sit on something called the Officiating Development Alliance, and the heads of refereeing for NHL, NFL, NBA, MLB sit on that alongside some other, sports as well. And we just share best practice, and they come to some of our online camps in the shutdown, and I've been to some of their events as well, and we just try to take on board best practice. You're right. I know NFL have been having some issues around how they're going to use their video replays, and they've had it for a long time. And I know that they brought the pass interference in last year. I understand they're taking that away this year. So it's evolving all the time, isn't it? And so will ours. As we go along, just to try to make sure it delivers what the football world, the soccer world, wants it to deliver. And me personally, as a football fan, as a soccer fan, I want to see it being used only to enhance the game, not to interfere with it. It irritates me sometimes when, and this is no fault of the officials, but there'll be a goal scored. It looks like a good goal on my TV. Everybody's ready to kick off again, and the referee stood there like this. And sometimes there's a really good reason why that happens, because it might be a really complicated passage of play with 3 or 4 difficult offsides to check. And there's no point checking only 1 or 2. You've got to check all 4, and it takes time. And there's no point rushing the process. So sometimes it's absolutely right and proper that the guy stand there, but I can sense agitation. People have celebrated the goal. They don't want it to be taken away. It's like, ref, what's happening? And I'm thinking, come on, get it done quickly, guys. Get it done quickly, but accurately. It looks like a good goal. And then when he kicks off again, it's like, yes. And we're trying to minimise those times where the referee stood like that. And we're getting better at it, I think, all the time.
Well, I think it's changed, hasn't it, Howard? I mean, I know, personally now, I just do not celebrate a goal. I'll first of all be thinking, he could have been offside. Because I learned my lesson. We had it, if you remember the game at Yankee Stadium when we were playing NYC. So it was playoff game. Looked like we'd scored a good goal from a corner.
Short corner.
And that was when we weren't getting the information perhaps as quickly onto what was being reviewed. So the only thing it could have been was perhaps a foul on Jeff. And it was never a foul on Jeff. So they're finger to the ear. They call it off. And I'm already like, there's no way that was a foul on Jeff. This is ridiculous. And when they actually show the offside, of course, it's actually
it was complicated, wasn't it?
On
it was that short corner routine. Yeah, it wasn't so obvious.
Yeah, but I think now, generally, as a fan, you've almost got to hold your tongue until you get that official kick off, and then hooray.
Well, just an interesting stat on that one, Dan. I think you're right, and I think that is certainly a fear, and a lot of people, have said in the past, not just here but all over the world, it's not the same, you can't celebrate. But I've got some stats from MLS from 2019. Around about 1,300 goals were scored in MLS and awarded by the officials, and all of them were checked, as we know. We check every single goal for any offside, any foul, any ball out of play, and of all of those, only 41 actually went to review, which is just over 2%. Of the others, they were checked but allowed to stand. So the perception that goals are getting wiped out a lot is not a true one, but I understand it does exist. There's a perception there that goals get wiped out. More get wiped out in other leagues where, obviously, but the handball law now, so I mentioned that one. But also because we use a clear and obvious threshold for offside, what we say to the officials is make your decision on the field. We say to the assistants, you're pretty good at what you do normally, so we trust you. Make your decision. You bang in line. That will be the on-field decision, either offside or not offside. We delay the whistle to allow incorrect offsides to be rectified as well. And then the VAR looks at the on-field decision on their screen, and they get the best angle, and they say, okay, from what I can see, is that a clear and obvious error? And if there's doubt, if it's not clear, if it's unsure, they will say, okay, I can't be certain. I defer back to the on-field decision, and therefore the goal would stand in that situation, which means we're not cancelling as many goals because we're not identifying these sort of margins. And everybody understands that, because you'll get that benefit when you're attacking, other teams get the benefit when they're attacking. When we have sufficient cameras in place, we'll have to make a decision about whether we do use the lines. I'm hoping the technology catches up to a position where we can have automatic offside recognition. The referee knows straight away that somebody's offside. We're getting.
Let me put my vote in, Howard. I think the way we do it is great, because we do give I'd encourage benefit of the doubt to the attacker, and then if it's obvious on a replay, fine, pull it back. But at least that way around, we're not stopping goals.
I'm with you on it, Darren. I think so, and and I think most people have got that understanding as well. I mean, there's some tough ones. You remember the playoff game last year between the two LA teams, where there's a really close offside situation, and could the player have been offside? Maybe, but I can't say with certainty. So, the on-field decision made by the assistant who was in line was onside, kept the flag down, giving benefit of the doubt to the attack. And when you look at the angles, maybe not. Something. Let's just not get involved in that situation. And everybody understands and accepts that. And when we speak to the coaches and you guys at the clubs, you seem pretty okay with that, and therefore that's the way we'll employ it for the foreseeable.
So
we all accept it. No one gives you any stick.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was my question. You said you got like 1,000 text messages when you were announced as the World Cup referee. How many text messages do you get from Darren and all the other
and Carlos Bocanegra
during a game?
Carlos Bocanegra on speed dial. No, you guys are pretty good. I mean, there's definitely a correlation between success and the number of calls I get. So the teams that are having a good time don't tend to make contact. So understandably, because a call will go against you, but it won't impact the outcome maybe so readily, and therefore it's not as painful. Having said that, teams that win will call me as well and say, can I have some clarification on this? Or, even though we won the game, I still think this needs to come to your attention. Some clubs make more contact than others. Depends on the nature of the personnel. I've got to say, I'm a big believer in open dialogue, and if we can come away from a call or a text, an email, sort of like dialogue, having a better understanding of each other's positions, then I think we're in a better place, and it's been time well spent. It can be emotionally draining sometimes, but I think it is worthwhile. And and we have to put ourselves in the position of you guys. I mean, you prep your team, throughout the week. You control certain things like your formation. You do research on the other team. You know how you're going to play the game, and then the referee comes in and it was something that you've not got control over. So I can understand the frustration, and also this game can be painful, can't it? This game can be a painful experience, and you can end up, having a decision go against you that can be impactful, and it's going to create emotion. So I try to put myself into the shoes of the coaches or the CSOs that make contact with me, and equally I hope that they're able to do the same with us. And most of the time, we make good calls, and if we do make a bad one, I'll hold my hands up and say, look, it wasn't a good call, but we'll work hard to learn from the situation and rectify it for the future.
I was just chuckling out. I was looking when I texted you at some of the earlier texts while we were talking, and I remember having one with you about denying an obvious goal scorer opportunity, and you were like, "Look, it wasn't obvious." I was like, "Yeah, but it's Miles Robinson. You don't know how good he is at finishing."
Yeah.
You weren't having it, quite rightly, but
yeah, you know, sometimes you're right, you know, and sometimes I have to sit there and think, okay, how much do I accept here, you know? But yeah, you guys are great. I mean, you know, and you know, one of the very first games I went to in MLS when I came in March 2017, you know, to do the final sort of prep for VAR from a coaching point and training point of view, and the first weekend that I was here at the start of March was your first game at Bobby Dodd against Red Bulls, I think, yeah.
Yep.
And I was there, and what an amazing experience. You know, I remember videoing the crowd outside as I was arriving into the stadium, and I sent it to my son. My son's 19 now, and I said, "Look, this is proper. This is really proper. You know, this is like unbelievable." And you know, the fans just got it straight away. You did an amazing job. It's been said a million times, guys, but you know, we benefit from that. We love officiating in a good atmosphere. You know, I read somewhere in the Wall Street Journal a few weeks ago that the big benefactors of the fact that fans aren't in the stadium are the officials. I don't agree with that. I think we referee better when we've got, you know, fans in the stadium that, you know, that are creating that sort of like atmosphere. Our adrenaline flows, and we do better in those situations. And you know, it was a great experience to be at that stadium, and then obviously going into the new one was just mind blowing.
Yeah.
I know we're a little over time, but it just the MLS is back, or Orlando tournament. Real quick, how are you getting prepared, and your team getting prepared for that? We've
just selected the officials for the tournament. When I say selected, quite a few of our guys are not full time. The assistants are not full time. They've got other jobs. The referees are professional, but you know, with the assistants, we had to obviously, you know, reach out to them and find out who's got the availability to go down there for what's going to be 5 or 6 weeks or whatever it is. So we've locked all that in. We're good to go. We've been going through quite a lot of training, educational material. From a technical point of view, we've had input from referees who have refereed behind closed doors. So the first Bundesliga game was Dortmund against Schalke, and that was refereed by a guy called Dennis Eiterken from Nuremberg. So Dennis came and spoke to our officials about what it's like refereeing with coronavirus hanging over you. What's it like refereeing in an empty stadium? We also had Anthony Taylor from the Premier League. He refereed Paris Saint-Germain against Dortmund in the last Champions League game without fans before the shutdown. He came and gave his experience of what empty stadiums are like to officiate in, you know, and no fans and what have you, and how you know how some of the reactions of the players might be different. We've been doing some basic sort of like fitness baselines throughout the shutdown, and now we're cranking that back up again to make sure that everybody's ready to go. We're hoping there's going to be some scrimmages down there, because otherwise it's going to be months since our officials have officiated you know, a game. So we're hoping we're going to be able to take advantage of some you know, I don't know if Atlanta are lining any up. I don't know if all the clubs will, but I'd like to take advantage of that, because there's nothing like, you know, getting out there, blowing the whistle, raising the flag in a match environment, rather than just going through the, you know, the training sort of like routines in a fitness sense. So yeah, we're just ready to get started now and get going again.
That's going to be fun. I think that's the same. You know, our fans, everyone in the MLS, it's just exciting to have a line of sight to meaningful games again, and hopefully it's going to be a fun tournament. I think for the league to get back in North America so quickly is going to be a real positive. So hopefully it's going to be a big success. Well, look, Howard, really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you for doing that, and keep up with the fitness campaign. I expect to see you even thinner when you're in Orlando.
And ripped. Don't expect too much. But no, guys, it's been great to see you. A real pleasure. Keep up the great work down there in Atlanta, and yeah, just take care of yourself, and we'll see you in a few days.
Good luck in Orlando, and thank you for your time, Howard. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt. Take care.
Thanks. See you guys next week.
Thanks, Howard.
See you, Darren.
See you down there, guys. Thanks a lot.
All right.